Okay. Let's do some questions and answers. So the people that I want to answer questions have all left. They want to all right. Yes.
I have a question.
Okay.
I wanted to know about your experience with peyote.
What about it?
Well, what was it like?
Well, it was many different levels of that experience.
Did you do it more than once?
I did it for 4 years. I trained in the Native American Church as a fire chief. And so that's a 12-hour ceremony, and you eat a lot of peyote.
And you get real sick?
Well, the getting sick is, you see, the peyote experience, the Native American Church ceremony is a 12-hour experience, and you begin 3 hours, move through the physical, then 3 hours you move through the mental, and then at this point is midnight. You have midnight water. You bring in the water, which enters the emotional, and then in the early hours of the morning, you have what's called main smoke, in which the reason for being there is realized, and you enter the vibrational awareness. And by the time the ceremony is finished in the morning, you're in the vibrational awareness. So it was the peyote ceremony that taught me the pathway of awareness, that brought it to my attention. But it did many other things, right, that was specific for me because of the work that I was doing. And one of the things that I had to learn to do was to be conscious in an altered state. Because much of the insight I have about the emotional body comes from being conscious in my own emotional states and being able to, because I'm remaining conscious through my fear, anger, and grief, being able to perceive the mechanics of this, right? So that experience of the Native American Church was teaching me many of those things that enabled me to put together a procedure to facilitate the condition. Peyote doesn't, I never had any hallucinations on peyote, so for me it's not an hallucinogen, although it's classed as a hallucinogen. The only time I hallucinated on peyote is when I had 5 black widow spider bites, and then I had to go into a ceremony anyway while I was in that condition, and I saw some pretty strange stuff. But
You literally got bitten by 5?
No, I got 5 bites in I had 3 bites on one leg and 2 bites in the other of black widow, right? So I got very sick, and in that state of toxicity and taking the peyote. In the Native Americans, that was medicine. I was receiving medicine from those spiders, right? So it was a different type of medicine. And in that way of being, no bite by an insect, anything is an accident. It's all medicine. It's acupuncture and giving of medicine.
They actually...
No. You don't have to. Nature will do it.
Oh, okay.
No one... Yeah. Nature will do it. Whenever you get bitten by anything, it's nature giving you medicine, right? It's not accidental. It's just that we don't know what we require. So, being bitten by something is not what we need or want, but it may be what we require, right? We just don't know. But I never found peyote to be an hallucinogen. It never showed me something that wasn't here. What it really did is brought me really physically present, right into the body, and in many ways dismantled the structures that I had built out of my emotional imprint. So I could perceive what it is like to live without those structures. What is it like to be, not do? What is that state of being, right? And so the peyote can't do anything for you. I think a big mistake in which that happens with something like peyote is people think the peyote can do something for you. And so therefore they take it regularly to try and do that thing. But actually, the peyote can't do anything for you, but it can give you insight. But then once the experience subsides, you need to step into your life and act accordingly, right? And take the action based on that insight. But it can't do anything for you, right? And the belief that it can do something for you leads you again into another religious state. The belief that a wafer can do something for you and sipping wine blessed by a priest can do something for you is, to me, deluded, right? Because nothing there can do something for us. What does it is impacting the causal point of my experience. So the peyote was very instrumental, and I'm grateful to it. It's called the medicine, and I know why it's called the medicine. It's good medicine, right? But it's not necessary to take peyote, because the presence process will, in a very gentle way, will put you into the same experience.
Did you ever do that other drug called, I think is it DMZ?
Yeah, I've explored many of them, right? I've explored many of the plant medicines.
What did you think of that?
Well, it doesn't matter, because they came to me as I required them. I wouldn't go and seek them out, but they came to me as I required. And they can show you things, and they can take you into other experiences. But for me, what is important is what is going to work to impact this experience. It's the same with the New Age stuff too, about going to the different dimensions, all of that stuff. And how does it work for here? Well, it does nothing for here. Right? So those dimensional experiences are great. Bring them here. Don't go there. Right? So a lot of people are taking these medicines, which initially I was too, is taking these things to try and, we call it, get out of it. To get out of this experience. To look for somewhere else. The first book I ever read that interested me was the Bermuda Triangle, because I would just love to disappear. How can I do that too, right? And then books on UFOs, because I think, well, maybe someone will come take me away from this planet, because these people are mad, right? All trying to get away, right? Until what the peyote showed me was rather show up here. That the whole thing was about showing up in this body as fully as possible. And it showed me, I had in my very first experience with that, it showed me the human condition. It showed me all of this. It showed it to me through the prism of my own experience, that my pain had nothing to do with what was happening now. My pain was an echo of something that was imprinted here. And that unless I went back and impacted that, I would continue to be in pain.
But it showed you your truth.
Well, it showed that to me, right? It showed that to me.
Should we do peyote?
No, I don't think, so I think the thing is, don't do anything.
Don't do anything.
But if it comes to you, right, if it comes to you, but don't do anything. Don't go and make...
Seek it out.
Yeah, you seek it out, you're trying to make something happen, you're going to be disappointed. It's like all the people who read Carlos Castaneda, and I was one of them, right? Let's have a Carlos Castaneda experience, right? No one got to have a Carlos Castaneda experience. Why? Because that's his experience. You have your own. And it's not necessary. I mean, a good breathing session is as powerful as any peyote session.
And cheaper.
And you get to keep. And you get to keep it. You get to keep. With a peyote, you don't get to keep it. It dissipates. It can make you physically present, but once the medicine dissipates, you lose that sense of presence. I know lots of people who are just the same 5 days after the peyote experience as they were when they took peyote. They just return back to the same state. It doesn't change anything. If you want to accomplish it, you want to do it internally. Only what's done internally through our own will, through our own capacity, is ours to keep. The things that we do from the outside may change things for a while, but they'll return back to that. That's why the priest who heals somebody, and someone is healed by the preacher, they might be healed for a while, but it'll return, because they never impacted it through their own will.
But I thought you said it showed you the truth and it showed you the way to restore your balance.
I've showed you something here this weekend, but it's done nothing for you. It's changed nothing. When you walk out of here, the buttons that are pushed in you will be pushed, and you will still react the same way. Nothing will have changed. It's only going to change when you go into yourself and impact that. And the peyote can't do that for you. It doesn't matter how, the whole world is showing us the truth all the time. What difference does it make? The truth is always being in front of our eyes. So seeing the truth doesn't mean anything. Can you live it? And living it requires, it's an art form, is to go in and participate in the experience, right? Is to go to the emotional signature. Nothing can do that for you. So you can take as much peyote as you want. I've taken a load of peyote in my life, right? But it wasn't the peyote, it didn't do anything for me. I still had to go in and do my emotional work. It was only when I went to the consciously in a normal state, mundane state of awareness, and entered my fear, anger and grief, and was being with it so that it could move on. That's the only thing that ever worked. Nothing else has ever worked. Everything has been about getting me to that point. Everything. And now that's the only practice that I have. I don't even have a meditation practice. I threw all that stuff away. It doesn't work. That didn't work for me. The only thing that works is going through my day and saying, what am I feeling right now? Paying attention to it and being with it, not fiddling with it. It brings everything I require. All my abundance, all my health, all my relationships in the world, everything comes from that. Everything comes from that. So that's the point. That's what peyote showed me, to go and do that. But it couldn't do it for me. If I didn't do the work, I would still be in the same state I was before I took peyote. It can't do it. And I feel sorry for the many people in this country who believe that peyote can do it, because really all they are is addicted to peyote. Right? Makes them feel good and clear and present, so they take it. But actually, once it moves out of the system and dissipates, they're back to the same lives and the same problems and the same struggles. Nothing has changed. And that's where, the Native American church, by taking it every Saturday and doing ceremonies every Saturday, they just turn it into another religion. And many of the people there have the same problems over and over, even though they take it. There are some that get it, go out, change their lives, the way they're living, and impact their condition because of what they saw from the peyote. But the peyote doesn't do it. It can just show you. I can show you your anger. It's not going to change anything. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you find that you are in a pretty continuous state of breathing connectedly
No.
now, or do you?
It's a tool. Consciously connected breathing is a tool. It's like, at home I have a cupboard and I have tools in there. And I don't walk around with a screwdriver all day. I just go and get it when I need to work with a screw, right? Otherwise I put it away. The same with consciously connected breathing. It's a tool. It's a very powerful tool because it has many dimensions to it. It can bring us into the body. It can start getting us to wield being, because you have to be there. It's really a tricky way to get people to start being, because you can't tell people that being is where the power is. I go like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? But what I've got to do? No. Being is where the power is. No. But how do you do that? Right? There's got to be a doing involved. So what we do, there's a transition point from doing to being, and the shamans know this. They call them not doings, right? So they'll say, like, one of the not doings, they'll put a blindfold on and walk backwards all day, right? To try and get you to stop doing stuff, right? They'll find many ways of, until you get it, right? It's the story of the Buddhist, the Buddha disciple going to the Buddhist temple and looking at the statue of the Buddha and going, well, it must be the orange clothes, or it must be the lotus position, or it must be the beads, or it must be this half smile on the face. That's what Buddha's doing to be Buddha. So I'll do those things and maybe I'll become Buddha. But actually, the statue of the Buddha is an image of someone being, not doing. There's no doing at all. It's just being there, saying, look, I'm just going to be here. Check it out. Whenever we're being without condition, we're Buddha. That's it. But we can't get that unless we give ourselves that experience consistently so we can see the consequences of being. The breathing is a not doing that brings us. It has many applications. It has many consequences to it. But at some point, if you keep doing the breathing every time something comes up, then now you're using it as a doing. Now you're using it to sedate and control your experience. And that's why if someone says to me, I'm on the presence process for the 6th time, I go, well, you've got a problem we can't help you with. Because you only need to do that about 3 times. Let it go. Right? It's only just to assist us to move from doing to being. It's a transitionary. Everything is something to move through. I hope that what I'm in my presentation work, I move through it. It's not like, okay, now I've found something that works. I'm going to do this all the time. God forbid, right? Everything is transitional. So the breathing comes and goes. The conscious. Sometimes I will breathe. Probably I'll sit down and consciously connected breathe probably once every 4 or 5 months. I might sit down and go, I want to do some breathing. Let me time to do some breathing. But less and less, because rather if there's something that I want to take a look at, I'll just be with it without condition. Because the radiance of being is really what the breathing was bringing me to realize, right? But for most people, the relevance of being is lost because most of us are in the mental realm. So we cannot appreciate the value of being. Because no one else does. No one ever did. Right? It's something we have to show ourselves and see the consequence before it comes of value. Right?
This morning you talked about alchemy happening or occurring for a person within a family where the emotional signature can be altered, you said?
Absolutely.
Can you say more about that?
The emotional signature, remember we were talking about if I took the presence out of everybody and I shuffled them around my back and I brought out there'd only be one presence. If you take the emotional signature out of you, your mother, your father, your brothers, your sisters, and shuffle them around and hold them out, there'll only be one emotional signature. The causal point of that for you is inside of your emotional body. When you impact it in your emotional body, you impact it in theirs. There is only one emotional signature. Right? And so that's how you know when you're really authentically impacting the emotional signature. There will be movement in your family. You'll see things happening. Not what you want and need, but what's required in order to set everyone in that family free. Which is not what we want to need, because what we want to need is like for the family to like cling and stuff, and for these people to play these roles, and for this person to tell that person they're right and everything. But that's not what's required. What's required is to dismantle the family so that each of those beings may become a family in themselves and know who their real mother is and who their real father is. Right? So they can join the family of humanity. That's what's required. And if you go in and impact your emotional signature authentically, that's what slowly will unfold. It will unfold for you, and it will unfold in a gentle way for them, whether there'll be less, there'll be more movement for them, more freedom. They don't have to stand around you reflecting your stuff anymore.
I had a question about the breathing.
Yes.
I found that, well, I've done the process a couple of times.
Yes.
And I found that in many ways the breathing turned the whole process into a doing for me.
Yes.
And when you sent out your last email a few weeks ago about being, that impacted me more than either of the 2 times I did the presence.
Yes.
And I've spent so much time with the breathing. Part of me wants to ask you, could you demonstrate it?
It's
Because
very.
I'm thinking I'm doing it wrong.
No, you're not doing it wrong. Well, if you want to have an experience while you're breathing, that's not the breathing's about.
Yeah.
Right. Because the consequences of breathing happens over days. It's like the presence process. The consequence of the presence process unfolds 9 months after doing, or more after doing the presence process. It's not like you get to session 10, okay, it's done. What happened? You've only done the causal work, right?
Right.
So the breathing is really simple. It's just, and I'm breathing a little bit harder, but I would breathe like this. Simple as that.
Okay.
All right.
Did you breathe?
But I agree with you. If you get the Revelation of Being article, you never need to read the presence process again. I mean, if you really get what's written there, that's it. Game over.
Yeah, I've been sitting with it every
Yeah,
day.
to me, that's it, game over. And that's also because for me, I'm not at a point of arrival, right? At any point am I at a point of arrival. And so what I do is I'm going through my journey just like every one of you are. We're going through our journey together. And what I do is as I achieve certain insights that are more efficient, I'm looking always more efficient, right? Well, I have a friend, Pete Petrie, who he's in Chile now. But he was with me all the way through the Native American stuff, right? And he said to me, one day someone's going to be able to just say like a word, and that's it, right? Done, got it, right? And so we're working towards that kind of thing where it becomes, just get it, the being, trying to transmit the value of being. But I have to get it in a way that now I can transmit it more clearer. So the presence process was one way of transmitting it. Alchemy of the heart is this is the presence process. It's just in a more efficient technology, right?
Yeah.
It's a way more efficient, than the presence process, actually. There are people that are going to read this book. They're going to have just as much impact on their experience that the presence, and there's no breathing in here. There's no doing at all, right? It's a complete perceptual adjustment. And the being article is actually more efficient than Alchemy of the Heart because it's coming out now. That came out when? In August, right?
Alchemy of the Heart.
I mean, the Alchemy of the Heart I wrote in August.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the being article I wrote 3 weeks ago. Okay. A lot has happened for me since August because my journey is constantly unfolding. I haven't arrived anywhere. I'm exploring this just like everybody else. And what I found is that there is a journey, it is journey without end. There may come a point when I just don't even want to talk anymore because it's efficient, and I'm not efficient anymore. But for Leo, that might be a hard point to come to. But I agree with you. That article is way more efficient than the presence process. But for you, it is. But it's because of the work you've done in the presence process.
So
Right.
discount that.
So it's, for some people, they're still going to have to do that work. And then they will read that book. And then they may read they may have read the Revelation of Being and go, I don't get this. It's like, sounds groovy, but you know why? Because you can't get it unless you can get it through the lens of your own experience. So you've had enough experience for that to, right?
Yeah, that was like a rocket.
For me too, when I wrote it, whenever I write something new, I always go, this is it. This is it, right? But I know it's not. But I just feel like that when it's happening. Because I get the same, unless I get that rush out of it too, I'm not going to even put it out there in the world. It's happening for me in that moment. It's got to be real and happening for me. I'm not just like, right? And that article comes out of these presentations and the one-on-ones. So this is what people, I don't do presentations because I'm trying to help people. I'm not doing one-on-ones because I think I can help you. It's because this is a way that I explore this work. There's no more powerful way than to stand up here without a piece of paper or anything to go and just go for it. Something's gonna happen, right? And real. And out of that, I will somehow capture the insight that I'm receiving out of that. In this weekend, I've had insights that have been clicking things in for me. So I'll continue now, take some time off and I'll write something maybe, put it down, and then immediately, for me, I don't want to hold it back, so that's why I put out the Revelation of Being article. I won't hold that back and keep it until I can get another book together and then I'll send it. I want to give it out immediately because I've learned that by giving out the realization now, by letting go of it, then more will come. Don't hold anything back, right?
I was reading your letter to 2008 participants on your website.
Did it scare you too? No, it's okay. I just came from Erie where the people said, man, that letter you wrote was scary. I was like, what? No, that's scary stuff you're talking about there.
I was intrigued
Erie.
by you saying that the 22 locations that you chose for this
Yeah.
tour were deliberately navigated, and you made some reference to an acupuncture sort of image. I wondered if you could talk
Well, that's just a way of thing, but if you can take a fractal, like, you know what a fractal is? A small piece that represents how the whole works, right? So let's say this This weekend is a fractal. Let's say this talk today has been a fractal. This talk today was deliberately navigated. And if I stand back from it afterwards and I listen to the recording, I'll be able to see how things that we're speaking about now were set up from things we spoke about earlier, and how it's completely deliberately navigated. It's not that I'm consciously deliberately, it's deliberately navigated because I'm getting out the way and letting it unfold. And that which navigates everything, which is the cause of everything, will deliberately navigate it. And so from when I'm saying that the tour is deliberately navigated, it comes about through the same means that I use to do a presentation. So it's in hindsight, I look and I go, wow, 22 locations. I didn't decide, okay, I'm going to do 22 locations, right? I don't operate like that. But when I'm finished in hindsight, I go look at it and I go, wow, that's amazing. And even, so I got to 22 locations and I went, wow, that's amazing. Because to me, 22 is a very profound number. It's about my own experience. It means something to me, right? So I'll share it, but it means something to me. So even when I went to South Africa, just before I went to South Africa, someone heard I was coming from the Eckhart Tolle Society. And they said, please come and do a talk for us while you're in Johannesburg. So I agreed to, and I went, no, there's 23. Now that's a mess up, right? Damn, I didn't see that coming. So I get back here, and within 3 days after arriving back, because of the problem I'm having with immigration, I cancelled Hollyhock because I don't want to cross the border. Oh no, we're back to 22. But I'm not doing it to try and, that's how it's. So I look at things in hindsight, not in foresight. So when I say, this is like 22 acupuncture points, I'm looking at it, I have a map on my wall, right, of the states, and I have all the tours. Once it's all done and it's happening, then I made this map and I looked back and I went, wow, that's quite an interesting thing going on there. The places that are being touched, right? And that's just my way of communicating that, to me, it's deliberate. It's absolutely deliberate that I'm supposed to be here, and that you are supposed to be here, and we're supposed to be having this conversation. I don't have to know the
It wasn't a strategic move that you were conscious of.
No, but the vibrational is always strategic and conscious. And I'll acknowledge that in the putting together of this. I'm not acknowledging myself as the oneness. I'm acknowledging that in it. Because I know that wherever I go and what's happening, I see how deliberate it is. Right?
There's a question.
I was wondering if you'd share maybe a little bit about your experiences with intimacy, since you're sort of charting a new course for us about entering, with your new companion, or I'm not sure how new it is, but what are you discovering, since there's no archetypes where you are?
Well, it's quite a challenge that I want to put this book together, and it's very difficult to know how I'm going to do this. I haven't had my ass kicked so hard before. It's really, the intimacy journey is really tough. It's been very tough for me, because but at the same time, it's the most profound work that I've ever done. It's been the most liberating and profound work. But it never took me anywhere to where I thought it was going to take me. I had some idea of what it was about, and what it keeps is every time I have an idea of where this is going, it just dismantles it. So I don't even have a way of saying what Elizabeth is to me, because I don't have any structure to put that in. And we don't live together, and I'm lucky if I see her twice a month in the physical, because I'm always traveling and she lives far from where I live. So there's more than anything, what there is space. And so, but it's the most profound, because our intent is to explore the experience of intimacy and what that's about. It's like also a journey without end. It's unraveling and unraveling and unraveling. And I don't know what it is. All I know is that it's freeing me of the program in a way that nothing else has. But of course I had to do the other work first. But it is really profoundly, it's really about dismantling. It's all about this relationship between this and this, the emotional and the mental. It's shown me more than anything else where I manipulate, because the whole of life is sex. The life is God having sex. That's what it is. And the thing about God is that God's not really interested in the orgasm. We are. And so what we do is we keep manipulating life to get our orgasm. Okay, my orgasm will be $50,000 a month is what I'm going to earn. Or my orgasm will be you behaving a certain way so that I feel good about myself. Right? Or my orgasm will be being able to spend so much money a month on clothes. Or it doesn't matter what it is, my orgasm will be that I'm famous. I get recognition from other people, whatever it is, right? And what the intimacy experience is an opportunity to come together and remove the orgasm, right? To remove the orgasm. So for example, in the intimacy experience, in the first, you're going to find that one partner, when the partners are together, one is going to be pursuing sex and the other will be sedating sex. That's how it's going to be, because the one is going to play mental body, one's going to play emotional body. So whoever's playing the mental body, they are not allowed to initiate sex anymore. That's part of the journey. And they're not allowed to have orgasm. They can't initiate sex, and when the sex is initiated by the emotional body, they may not have an orgasm. Right? And they have to agree to that, to put the orgasm aside and to not initiate. And when the mental body agrees to that, then the mental body is going to ask a crucial question. Well, then why am I doing this? Then the work begins. Right? Because it's not about turning someone else into your orgasmobile. Right? It's not what it's like. It's not what it's about. Another human being is not supposed to be your orgasmobile. They're not supposed to be manipulated to give you pleasure. And when we see that in the practice of sexuality, the moment we enter sexuality on that level and to see that, right, and realize that it's the orgasm in life that we aim for, that pulls us and anchors us in mortality consciousness, because the orgasm is the end, the death. And when we remove the orgasm from our experience, in other words, I'm not attached to any outcome. I don't have an outcome that I'm aiming for. I'm being here with you. I'm just being here with you. I'm being here with you in an intimate way, but I'm just being here with you. Suddenly, things start to open in a way that is, what starts to open is this. And when this starts to open, what comes through here, wow, that's way better than any orgasm could be. It is way superior, right, than some physical pleasure that ends up in a death. It's way different. But that's very hard to get. It's hard to get a life without a destination. And it's our destinations, our outcomes, that I want to get this outcome so I feel good. I want to get this outcome so that I feel loved. I want to have this structure. You must behave in this way so that I know that you love me. All that stuff has to go. All of it has to go. And that's what the work we do to free ourselves. And as we free ourselves, what happens is our awareness starts to become aligned with our being and not our doing. Because when the orgasm is involved, sex is something you do. You do to get somewhere. I'm doing this to you so that this will happen. But it's not about doing, it's about being together. Everything is about being together. Right? And once we start attaching our awareness to beingness rather than doing, beingness has no awareness of beginning and ending. What being is has always been. It's a vibration that's always been. This is beingness here. This has always been and always will be. And once my awareness becomes attached here, then I enter immortality consciousness, to be in the world but not of it. That awareness starts to open up. That's the intent of the intimacy experience. It's to open the chalice so that what love is may be realized in the world. We call it making love with each other, but we don't really know what that means. It's not really making love, it's realizing what love is with each other. And it's not what we thought it was. And it's got nothing to do with our doings. And it's got nothing to do with our structures and arrangements. All of that has to be dismantled. And it's quite a painful dismantling all of that. It's very painful because how do I know what you mean to me, or what you, if there's no structure and you don't do these certain things, and all that has to go away. And so you're constantly throwing yourself into the void with this person. And that's, for me, the experience is, that's why it's very difficult. Once one moves beyond the emotional work and starts entering the vibrational, that's why I was saying to you, your third story, nobody can tell you. The intimacy work, when we free each other through the intimacy experience, when we are freeing ourselves, we're awakening to the third story. And the third story is intensely personal. So the fruits of the intimacy, I can't really tell you. All I can say is, invite you to be curious about the experience of intimacy. To be curious about it. And let yourself into the third story. Let it be shown to you. Because I don't want to play house. It makes my mama cry. When she plays house, my daddy says goodbye. I don't want to play house. You don't remember that song? No. Yeah, it's a country and western. It's a country and western song.
You remember it?
I've heard it.
I don't want to play house. One more question.
Is being and doing absolutely exclusive, or can it possibly be that one can do and be simultaneous?
Well, that's why I define doing. I'm not talking about activity, all activity. So when I talk, momentum, we use the word momentum in the article. Doing, what I define as doing, is when I enter momentum or activity that creates a momentum. It comes out of wanting to feel better. It's coming out of the charge of the emotional signature. The thoughts and the behavior coming out of feeling better, sedating and controlling this. That's the doing. Once that emotional signature is integrated, that behavior is not there. Then I'm still active in the world. There's still momentum, right? But now it's as an expression of my being. And there is a transition point, from doing to being. This is the not doing work enables us to make the transition. But once the emotional signature is gone, the being is there. You don't have to make yourself be. That's all that's left. You're just being there.
I was getting that there's impossible to have sex without manipulation. It was sounding like you were saying.
Well, I'll tell you what. Sex with manipulation will never allow the vibrational through. Never. And that's why part of the intimacy, there'll be a couple of suggestions in the book on intimacy about certain practices. One of them is the removal of the orgasm. Because once the orgasm is removed and there's no destination, then one asks, why am I doing this in the first place? Right?
Control, though.
Right?
I mean, you can be being with somebody, and you can be in the physical act of
Yeah,
sex.
absolutely.
And you may not have any say about whether that orgasm comes or not.
Well, the orgasm, you see, you can contain that energy. This is also another different practice in containment, right? So initially you go like, I'm not having an orgasm. That's it. But it happens, right? You go, ugh. It's like saying, I'm not going to lose my temper, right? Because actually, having an orgasm and shouting at somebody is the same thing.
Energy.
It's the same lack of containment. Can't contain the energy. As I learn to contain my energy, in other words, I can be with my partner sexually and not have to have an orgasm. Because eventually, once my intent is clear about that, I won't have an orgasm. And I can be there. In fact, I won't even require one. It's the same way as I can be around anger and fear and grief without being triggered. It's the same thing. It's containment. It's a different level of containment work. It's about containment, containment, containment. Right? And it's not about moving it away forever. It's just a practice to show you something about yourself. So you can see experientially, because once you see that in your sexual practice, how you actually are going around your partner and manipulating them to get it so you want an orgasm, you won't see that until you remove the orgasm. Because suddenly all that behavior becomes pointless. And then you go, wow, I've been a real dog, right? I've been a real dog. I'm a real dog, right? Got to see that. Oh, that's horrible, right? And once that's removed, then I see that I'm doing it around other people so that I get my money, so that I get my this, so that I get my that, right? And to strip that away out of my behavior so I can just be here without trying to manipulate this to get to a specific outcome. Now I'm entering journey consciousness because there's no destination. And journey consciousness is about being. It's an immortality consciousness. And in that awareness, my being in the world has a completely different purpose than here to manipulate something to get something. Right? It's a different story about why I'm here. That's the third story, right? So, let's end it there for today. Thank you very much for coming and hanging out for the weekend. Just want to thank Jordan for setting us all up in this way.